To our DocYard webinar, webinar 2 of a series of 3 webinars. Today we talk about the seamless production system integration for especially scan service business with DocYard. My name is Carsten Heiermann. I'm the Managing Director of LuraTech, and with me is Armin Ottmann.
Hello, good afternoon.
Armin Ottmann is the Director of R&D with us.
Right, I was just about to say that.
Okay, your break was too long. Okay, let's start into our presentation, DocYard used for seamless production system integration for scan service businesses. Armin is going to flip the slides for me, and the next slide, please. Which is the first slide. What we experienced at LuraTech when we started to create a product like DocYard and did a really extended trip visiting scan service facilities almost all over the world is what we wrote down here in the slides mentioned or named previous approach. We visited a scan service business in Germany, obviously, as it is our main office, also all over Europe, but also in Northern America, and even Mexico and where not. And we found that in almost all scan service businesses, all the required features, all the required functionalities of document conversion already exist. So what they've got is something like an OCR server, maybe. Of course, they got many graphical user interfaces to do document or data entry or corrections or quality assurance, and many, many, many other functional components and functional small to large modules that is there. But as you might see in that kind of graphic on the lower end of this slide here, these systems are normally not really connected, not tied to each other in a way, in the fashion of a seamless integrated workflow, but on the other hand, but they are in fact components that are where the data is transferred from one component to the other, in the worst case really by copying badges from a network drive to another network drive with human interaction, or the connection between the modules is kind of a loose connection where they are tied together with highly specialized scripting, highly individual stuff that also is a little bit hard to handle. As I said, in most cases we found that the productions are not seamlessly integrated. Next slide, please. Also, what we found out as a previous approach as how people are still working until today in scan service businesses is that they do not have a really complete end-to-end integration, process integration. That means the process really starts when a scan service business receives some boxes with paper in it or something like that, and not when the first digital image is there. And it only ends when everything is delivered back to the customer, including the reports, analyses, and whatnot. And a unified reporting and monitoring, while we define reporting as view on older things, done things, where you can get report data from, and where we see monitoring as view on currently running jobs, how the production facility is currently doing in this moment. Both is not unified possible at the scan service business, and there are many that we visited. What exists are many separated log files. No wonder, as there are many separated functional components and modules and whatnot. And what's also missing is a real statistic or statistical data, which is the data that one would need to do real intelligent production planning. So the automation, the integration, the unified reporting and generating of statistics to come up to feed a production planning system is just already not existing. In the same moment, there is no overall view on the current production status. It's not possible to tell how good the resources are used, and it's obviously then not easy to use the resources, highly expensive resources in terms of human resources, or the very expensive OCR module that they bought or something like that, to use that in the best way. That's also a thing that's not possible, as the productions that we found are not integrated at all. In worst case, really error-prone manual workflow control is done, copying stuff, and the only way to achieve a certain level of quality that assures that no batches are lost, no documents are lost, that everything is done right, is just to spend more work, to even do more work, and go back and revisit it again, go back and take a second look, a third look at that, make extra notes on papers where you cross off what has done and what not. And actually, we really found this kind of environment on our tour. In other words, or below the line, the costs are no longer under control. And it's really hard in an infrastructure like that to get down the costs, really. The margins, on the other hand, and that's driven through the market and the situation and the competitiveness of that business, the margins are reduced as the prices per page really tend to continuously go down. And the real complex business process outsourcing business is not going to be possible when you do not have, as a scan service business, an integrated infrastructure where you can really handle complex business process outsourced workflows on. Next slide, please. Yeah, then we sometimes get an answer when we came back with an analysis like that and said, this is the situation that you have in your scan service business. We became an answer that is like in this quotation mark in the first line. We don't have this problem. Our IT department solved it all. Yeah, okay, but when we started to asking questions, we found out that it's not really solved that problem, because when only Mr. Smith from the IT department is able to configure, again in quotation marks, the workflows in terms of adopting them to new requirements, as the second line there says in that block, changing project requirements will be reprogrammed by Mr. Smith and Mr. Smith only. It's only the IT guy, more or less a single resource in most of the scan service business, who is able to set up a new customer job or reconfigure a customer job due to new requirements. That's really not what we understand when we're talking about an end-to-end integrated and manageable production environment for a scan service business. And with every single change that Mr. Smith is actually doing, he's putting something more into his scripting stuff, and the infrastructure is getting less and less transparent. Really nobody else can understand what's going on there. And the wheel is reinvented every day. It's impossible to maintain those, okay, it was urgent that day workflows any longer in the future. And what is done very often is that these workflows, these scripts, these stuff is simply thrown away and replaced or done completely new and replaced with something that is again invented from scratch. So nothing really long-lasting and effective is created during the daily work in this kind of scan service business. Plus, the starting of jobs, stopping of jobs, control of jobs, adjustments of workflows to change customer requirements are done by the IT guy. I would say that's in the wrong income category also. It could be done very well in the production if you have tools that are intelligent enough to actually be managed by pretty normal non-IT people. Okay, but that's the previous approach. There's obviously hope. Next slide, please. Yeah, and what we found is that DocYard really allows you to have a different approach on production environments in scan service businesses. DocYard is actually a complete platform integrating all the process steps that are taking place in document conversion environments and document production systems. It allows really a complete control and overview over the whole production line, and thanks to the ease of use, easy-to-use graphical user interfaces and tools it has, it can be really managed by pretty normal people. The graphic below shows what DocYard really is about, and that's the red line around everything. And DocYard really has the idea, or DocYard really is the idea, to integrate the whole production line from beginning to the end, no matter what documents are coming in, is it paper or something else or data or whatever are coming in. They are processed from the very beginning to the very end through the DocYard environment. Of course, and that's the upper right corner of that graphic there, of course, DocYard can handle distributed environments, many computers that are doing the functional steps, and is centrally managed for really complex workflows and overall production systems. And DocYard also has the span that it goes to the real end when you actually deliver back the deliverables, the data, whatever it is, to your customer. Next slide, please. Yeah, it is an integration platform for the existing infrastructure, to integrate the existing infrastructure. And that's really kind of a different approach that we take. That's really the idea of DocYard. You have all the functional components, like the mentioned before, OCR server, like some graphical user interface tools or whatever, in your production environment already. And now, on top, there's an umbrella that puts it all together, that makes it fully and seamlessly integrated workflows, and that's DocYard exactly. Having said that, together with the functional components that you already have, that you want to integrate to your workflows, and now this end-to-end integration platform that really creates integrated workflows out of that, you have a production environment that is absolutely able to process many, many, many documents and do all the necessary document conversion steps in your businesses. It allows and comes with centralized setup, centralized configuration, monitoring, and reporting from a centralized seat, while the production, the document conversion, obviously it takes place completely distributed over servers and client computers and whatnot. When you want to integrate all your existing stuff, you of course have to have a very intelligent interface that allows you to extend your infrastructure, customize your modules, and also integrate everything you have into DocYard as DocYard modules, and that's called the DocYard Module-API. So there is a very well-designed interface available that allows, with a very reasonable effort, to integrate existing infrastructure component, make them a DocYard module, let's say, and then use them in DocYard workflows. DocYard provides distributed and parallelized processing, obviously, and is also highly scalable. So whenever you start with a very small project to just get started with DocYard, or you integrate your complete multi-billion pages per year production, DocYard is there to handle it. And another very important concept of DocYard is that it integrates a very effective, on the one hand, the manual work, so all the things that is done in front of a graphical user interface maybe, again, quality assurance, manual indexing, whatever takes place there. And it integrates it very effectively with the automated process steps. So let's again say the OCR server or a classification engine or whatever is going on there. The effectiveness of that is that it is really actually also during the weekend when nobody is there handling jobs automatically from one step to the next. And the effective integration of manual work here is that the interfaces are in the workflow and not phased out of a workflow. Some manual work is done and then it's phased back to the workflow, but the human modules, the human interaction modules, as we will see in the presentation in a minute, are really fully integrated into the workflows. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here's an example of what it could look like at some point. You see on the lower side of this graphic lots of red and gray functional components and modules, and this is just an example list. You might have, I don't know what, tools to create PDF files already in your company. You might have an image scan software. You might have smaller image enhancement tools. You might have indexing stations or whatever it is. And you, of course, have an OCR, a metadata generation tool of whatever kind, and so on. And then you can create, with the DocYard Module-API, a very small extra software layer for every of the single functional components that you have. Make it a DocYard module that appears as an icon, as in the example workflow above shown there. And then you can pick just the modules that you need for a specific workflow by drag and drop and connect them with this workflow lines there and make use of specific set of modules and come up with a highly customized, very flexible, very quick to be generated workflow based on DocYard that runs obviously then in distributed and parallelized fashion and of course can be centrally managed. Next slide, please. Yeah, and how it looks like is, as we can see here in this small screenshot of the Cockpit application. Cockpit is actually the tool to centrally manage everything. And I'm going to guide you real quick through what the functionality of the Cockpit functionalities are, because we take a look at especially the Cockpit in a minute in a live demo. First of all, on the upper left corner there, you see modules. And this is a list of your functional components with this small DocYard connector created so that they are appearing here as DocYard modules. And then you have a repository of several functional components like, as again, the quality assurance manual GUI thing, and on the other hand, the OCR and whatnot. We see an example of that. This is your repository. In the bigger window in the middle, you see how by drag and drop functional components can be put into workflows and then connected with this little arrows really come up with integrated workflows where actually the components really work together and the transfer of data and the reporting and whatnot is fully automatically. Talking about reporting, that's what you see in the lower right corner, called monitoring and reporting. There are several views already completely integrated in the Cockpit where you can take a look at what's currently going on, the live view on things, monitoring, and also can take a look at already done jobs in terms of reporting, how long it took, how many pages were processed, and all this kind of information and much more is available there. Then there is a window called Properties. That's the grayish window there. Whenever you activate a single module in the workflow design view, then you can set the properties for individual modules in that window here, but we will see that in a short while. And then the other two missing windows on the lower left corner is one is the workflow list. That's the list of all pre-designed workflows. So customer 1 invoices workflow, customer 2 human resources file workflow, customer 3 digital mailroom, outsourced digital mailroom workflow, and so on. This is the kind of workflows that you find there in your repository where you can always go back to, drag and drop them, and just start them and let them run as a job whenever a new box with files for this kind of specific workflow from a specific customer comes in. And once it's running as a job, it appears as a running job in the lower left window, where it also still stays when it is a done job, so that you can almost always go back to that job and find the production data that are related to that specific job. Okay, that's enough for this slide because we see that in live action in a second. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, a very quick overview of the architecture on how DocYard really actually works is this graphic here. I want to use this slide to introduce the concept of DocYard's database here, but in order to put it in context, DocYard can be run on a server or computer, of course, as I said before, distributed. The modules shown in red and green and yellow here are, let's say your existing infrastructure, your OCR tool, your quality assurance workstation, or whatever it is. The module manager, the blue window on every distributed computer, is what connects it to actually a DocYard workflow into the DocYard platform, so that it can communicate with the master, with the brain of DocYard, which is the master. And every single step that's going on with DocYard is, of course, in a very detailed fashion recorded in the database. So in other words, now, once you use DocYard as a workflow, suddenly all process data is completely and centrally available for every time in a very unified way. You have all the things that you need to have a snapshot, centralized monitoring using the Cockpit. I forgot to mention that, of course. Monitoring the current state of your production, also do all the reporting on all things that have ever been done with your DocYard installation. This allows you, of course, to use reporting tools and whatnot, go back to the database and create statistics. Statistics are very important for your further production planning and also when you have to do cost estimations. The setup of a workflow with DocYard is so quick and easy with this graphical user interface that whenever there's a new RFP that you have to answer on, you can create this workflow needed for that RFP in minutes and then run the test batch that you receive with a normal scan service RFP through that quickly done test workflow, generate the statistical data that you need on how long it takes, how much effort is spent for whatever function in that workflow, and have all the data then for your cost estimations, not guessed, but really measured. Of course, productivity is measurable for every single or for all workflows together, or in other words, even for parts of workflows, productivity on a certain correction desk in the same way as productivity for the overall production environment that you run through your DocYard system or on your DocYard system. Then ad hoc, you can analyze problems, of course, because the cockpit allows you always to see, oh, documents are piling up for that and that job on these and this workstations where they have to be manually indexed. Then you can go in the central cockpit and add more resources by routing this job to 2, 3, 4, 5 more manual processing workstations of the same kind. Ad hoc analysis, just easy solved bottleneck situations. And also systematic things can be analyzed where you can go in the database and find out why the resources are not used in the best way, under what circumstances and whatnot. And of course, you can use it for your post calculation. How good have we done? How big was the margin? Because you have all the process data completely and centrally available in the database. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I said, DocYard consists of modules, module managers, and the master installation coming with the database and the cockpit. And this allows you to really have a highly scalable infrastructure that you can use, that is your production system then, your production backbone, and that allows you also to make optimal use of your resources. DocYard has a way of auto-assigning jobs to free resources and everything else, so that it really also, during the weekend or the night shift when nobody is there, keeps on using your highly priced resources like an automatic OCR system or whatever, and not waiting until the next morning when somebody comes back to copy the next batch to that OCR server. It's completely done automatic, and the resource management can also be completely automatic. It's a flexible production infrastructure for you. It's very reliable. You can also address things like failover situations and so on with DocYard. It has a regulation or control by priorities, of course, and it also allows you, if you want, to do manual resources management and really assign specific workstations to specific jobs by hand. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, the module API I mentioned before, this is the interface that allows you to integrate all your functional components as DocYard modules into DocYard and then use it in workflows. And this is also an example of a real-world example of fairly complex workflow that is around invoice processing, where these invoices are categorized or classified and then checked against databases. Values are extracted, of course, and then checked against databases and whatnot. So DocYard is not always only the small sample workflow that we always use, converting a TIFF to a PDF or in the other direction, but it is really a production environment for every and ever so complex workflow that you have in your job list from your customers. It allows you to easily integrate all the functional components that you have. This is very important for the module API, and the effort that has to be spent there is really, really low compared to other systems to integrate your components to DocYard. Now, due to new technologies that we are using and also a very intelligent design of that interface. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, here's our simple workflow that we always use as an example. I just wanted to use this slide to show you that how the integration between automated, fully automated, and manual process steps with human interaction are done. Technically, a manual workstation or a workstation to do a manual job is just another module that is running under a module manager as the automated steps are. So the cockpit shows the throughput of that manual work, and you see a manual thing here. It's not manual because it's girl, but it doesn't matter. So the cockpit shows how the throughput is for that manual work, for that workstation. The Cockpit allows really in that workflow to automatically route documents to specific workstations. As I mentioned before, the use case of that is 3 manual correction, OCR correction, or whatever workstations are already running. You see in the Cockpit the documents are piling up, then you can add easily another 3 out of your, I don't know, 50 correction workstations or whatever you have there to this specific job, to this specific workflow, and then really manage centrally to make best use or make the generate the quickest result for a specific workflow. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to say about the integration of manual processes, and I think we can now have a quick live view on that things and leave the theory for a while.
Okay.
Armin will show us 2 things, I think. Just go ahead, Armin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're referring to these 2 lines.
Yep.
I'm just going to give a very quick overview of how to create workflows, how to adjust the parameters, and also what it looks like if you integrate manual steps in a workflow that generally is automated. Okay, so I'll switch over to our demonstration system here. I hope you can all see this. This is the Cockpit, a live instance. You see the sub-views that Carsten already mentioned and explained, the modules, the workflows, the jobs. In this case, we only have archive jobs. Nothing is running. What you see here is I have 2 module managers in this demo installation, and they're basically idle. And also you see here in this monitoring, nothing is going on. If you want to start something, it's about as easy as this. You create a new empty workflow, and then you can simply add modules by dragging and dropping them. And I'm just doing this for the purpose of showing how it's done. I'm not trying to construct a real workflow here, but it would be about as easy as this. You then see, for example, here this binarization module. It's really just a very simple module. You give it a threshold somewhere between 0 and 255, and whatever comes out here, which may be a grayscale or full color PDF, is then turned into a black and white PDF, and everything that's brighter than the threshold becomes white, and everything that's darker becomes black. That's a very easy example. Also, this file system import module, you really just have to tell it where to look for files, what kinds of files, file types it should consume, whether subfolders should also be read, and so on and so forth. That's basically really what you have to do before you're able to start the workflow. And having said so much, I'll just go ahead and show you a slightly more complicated workflow, which uses the just completed modules for forms recognition. We now have some of our standard forms recognition wrapped into DocYard modules because, of course, we also are eager to do the proof of concept that existing technology, and in this case our existing technology, can easily be leveraged and utilized within DocYard. And as we did with the MRC compression, we now did with our forms recognition and the form validator application. And as is already suggested by this monitor icon shape, this is the interactive part of this workflow. So this workflow will go...
I mean, let me ask a question at this point.
Yeah, sure.
These workflow here is showing actually several functional components, like you said, the form recognition engine or something like that. It's LuraTech modules, as you said, but that could in the same way be the form recognition or classification engine that one of our attendees today is already running in his office, right?
Yes, absolutely, of course. But of course, also in these early stages of DocYard development, we stayed kind of close to home, and of course, we also want to bring our technology into DocYard. But sure, any other recognition technology, any other OCR engine, any classification engine, and also a validation client could be integrated here as well. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, to continue. This again is the ubiquitous file system import. It reads input from the file system. Of course, you could also use input from somewhere else, say from a database or from a mail server or from a scan client, but for now we'll use this one here. The input is then converted into an internal image format because this here reads TIFF, but it could also be configured to read, say, JPEG or bitmap files, or you could also read PDF files and so on. Here we're concerned with TIFF images. We're then submitting them to forms recognition, and we have configured a folder where designs in the LuraTech shape of form designs are already or are provided. And these basically, the high-level view is that there are two designs here which tell the system to discriminate mail towards LuraTech Europe from mail sent to LuraTech Imaging, and of course there might also be documents which are neither, which are just arbitrary documents. We'll see in a second. We then send the results over to this form validator client where they can interactively be reviewed, and also we submit the images to MRC compression. That is, we use our MRC compression technology to convert them to PDFs. Yeah, it's regular PDF here. We could also convert them to PDF-A. And then both the compressed images and the form recognition XML results are written to this output folder. In this case, it could be two different folders, but actually they're configured to be the same here. Okay, so what do I have to do after I've set this workflow up? Well, basically I just have to hit the start button here. I'm prompted to give it a name. You see that I ran about 7 versions earlier today, some for testing, some for the German webinar in the morning. And what happens next? Well, you see, first of all, we see a new entry under active jobs. So we have this one job which is active now, and we also have quite a few entries here under the list of active modules. So this one workflow is reported here by its individual modules and the number of pages in this case they have already processed. So you see that the form recognition is still busy with the first image, which gives me the chance to start up the form validator, because that's what I have to do. I have to fire up this interactive bit.
This is something that would normally happen in the very morning on a specific validation computer or workstation that is used for this kind of purpose, right?
Right, right. And yeah, this could be done in parallel by several operators. Here in this demonstration case, I'll just do it once, and it will connect to the running workflow. That takes a moment, but then it should. Someone set the firewall settings differently. Anyway, then you see the first result here, and what you see is, okay, it found LuraTech Europe here. It's marked in the view of the original page. It shows me how this has been classified. I see that there are no errors, all constraints are satisfied. Great. I say go ahead with it. And this again is LuraTech Europe, basically the same results. Also okay. Another Europe. Let's see whether we find something different. You see already that there are, oh, this one. That looks like it doesn't really belong here. That more looks like a list of whatever. Anyway, that's not okay. All right. That's also not okay. I don't see anything from LuraTech here. And so on. That basically illustrates how you would go about. Seems some of my personal mail got into this. There's another one for LuraTech. This time it's imaging. Okay. No, I'm joking, of course. We prepared this, and we, of course, put in some random slides just to illustrate the fact that, of course, it also can deal with stuff that basically isn't in the correct shape. And this is really how you would go about. Some of you may have seen this form validator in its standalone shape already. We have now really tied this as a module into such workflows. And I think I'm just about done here because it's only 11 documents. Right, it has now finished on the 11 ones. This should show that it's done. And
so, I mean, you say that the form validator that we currently saw is our normal standalone form validator in the basic version, and this is now made a DocYard module through the DocYard API, right?
Right. We connected it to the DocYard API. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And
so, in other words, our customers can also. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Yes, that's absolutely.
Yeah, we have a delay here.
Okay. That's absolutely what we expect our customers or what we expect resellers to do. You can easily hook any interactive application to this module interface as well. And so next to such fully automated processing steps as the forms recognition here or the MRC compression there, you can have these interactive steps and, in this fashion kind of join your interactive task with the automated ones. One more thing I need to mention. You just saw it showed the job as finished for a while and then it went away. So where did it go? It obviously left lots of traces, lots of information in the database, and that basically enables me to just go back, see what did I do. Well, this ran for almost 3 minutes. It processed 11 documents. It ran on a machine Romeo, and this is the name, and so on and so forth. The actual database contains even more and more detailed information, and there's certainly enough to tell about how to extract this information into reports, but it can basically be done with very simple and straightforward tools. And you also see which settings were used here. So for example, you can see here that it was regular PDF that was created. It was not PDF-A. So basically all the settings that you used once in creating such a job also directly become part of the database, become part of the recording, and therefore at any given time I could go back and create a workflow, go back to the template shape of this job just in case I want to reuse it again and have thrown away basically the original. And if you go to the output folder, that's going to be my last thing here, Carsten, then you can take over again. You see that really just this run really created standard LuraTech XML recognition results and MRC compressed PDFs in our usual fashion. Okay.
Thank you very much, Armin, for this very good presentation.
Absolutely welcome.
That left me 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, let's immediately go on with the next slide. And in this slide, I want to introduce a step-by-step concept to you. DocYard really allows you, of course, to automate and integrate your whole production environment, but maybe a step-by-step approach might be the best thing. You have a first customer project that you need to go that you need to do now. Why don't you put it on DocYard as a first starter project? Integrate the first some modules, design a first workflow, and get some experience with DocYard just to the first some customer. Then, of course, our suggestion is strongly suggested to then expand it to your complete production platform, of course, step by step. And the good news really is that every single step you're doing with DocYard leads to a long-lasting result that can be reused at any point, at any time. Every integrated module can be, as we saw it in the presentation, dragged and dropped into any new workflow that you're going to have at some point. Okay, next slide, please. In order to really get a return on invest with DocYard, you have to be able to afford DocYard in the very beginning. That's why I wanted to introduce something about the license model in general, real quick. Most of you today, most of our attendees today know about the flexible licensing model of our PDF compressor, our long years flagship product that we have. But also DocYard comes with flexible licensing models that fit to any project. What's no longer there, that was called the server license model with PDF compressor, is a hardware-based model. So license per CPU core or per computer, that's just a thing of the past. And as we are going to integrate all your existing technology, you have a 2 CPU core OCR server already. Why shouldn't we charge? Why should we charge again for those 2 CPU cores? So a hardware-based module for an integration platform like DocYard seems not to make any sense. What makes perfect sense, although, is our advanced model, as we also call it in PDF compressor, which gives you for a one-time license fee a reoccurring pages per year license model, basically. So your 10 million, 50 million, whatever pages per year you normally produce in average, that's the license you can go for with DocYard 2. Then if you're lucky and have this very good project where you have to do this extra 15 million pages in 4 weeks as a scan service order, you have the basic model that you can always also in the same moment load to your DocYard installation that allows you to catch up with peak loads, do specific projects on top of your base load that you can very well cover with the advanced model. And now, very good news for our scan service provider business process outsourcing customers. We offer a utilities model now for DocYard 2. This is a limited time offer. There's not yet a deadline behind that, but it will be not forever out there, this offering. The utility model allows you to use DocYard without an upfront investment. There's no license fees that you need to pay. There's no fixed charges. There's no fixed charges, upfront license fees, risks in terms of you're not going to get something done with DocYard, which I don't expect, but then you haven't at least paid something. In other words, the concept of the step-by-step approach, really going in and doing the first customer project, is absolutely possible as there's no investment. And if you do this project based on DocYard, then we ask for a small, and I mean small, really small, price per page that you already did after you did it. And that's the new utilities model that we offer exclusively for scan service providers and business process outsourcers for a limited time to help you all getting up to speed with DocYard, of course. Next slide, please, which is the last slide then. As a summary, I want to once more highlight a little bit why DocYard is different. DocYard is really not the first document conversion solution out there in the market. There are several other well-known platforms, but I think our approach of centrally managing everything with that very easy-to-use concept is really different. We address really beginning to end, or as we say, end-to-end integration of your production environment, not starting actually with a scanned image, but really starting when a box of paper enters your front door or something where you're loading doc. The simple workflow design and also the very simple and easy job handling really makes us different. In addition, you could also summarize that we have really low implementation costs with DocYard, not only on the licensing part that you will experience to be a little lower than what you normally know, but also on the implementation effort part. We really used intelligent new technology and very well interface design to cut down the man days that might be needed to get started with DocYard. So in summary, the investment is comparable small, and you also have lower operating costs as the tools are really so easy to use and are so flexible. In addition, a very important concept is, I mentioned it between the lines already, the investments that you already made into systems and components like OCR servers or whatever are protected. And not only protected, they are giving extra value by integrating them all together in DocYard to integrated end-to-end workflows. And our concept is not to make everything new because we want to use DocYard now, but to use everything you have and integrate it with DocYard. That's the biggest difference. So below the line, we would say DocYard is the most profitable production environment for all your document conversion processes, especially in your scan service business. Next slide, please. Yeah, many thanks for your kind attention. I would like to also give you an idea about the other webinars that took place and will take place. So you say this webinar didn't give you the details that you're looking for. then I strongly suggest for you to register for our webinar on July 6th at 3 p.m. the same time today, Central European Summertime, which says it's the third webinar in the DocYard series going into the technical concepts of DocYard, really a technical session. Or you say, on the other hand, oh, I a little bit missed the basis. What was a module manager again? Just shoot us an email through the channels that you know. We can get you access to the recorded webinar 1 in our webinar series, which was about the basics of DocYard. We have it recorded and can send it to you or give you access to that recorded basic information webinar on DocYard. Please fill in our questionnaire so that we can get better in the future. And as a last statement, I want to tell you, when you're interested in DocYard, we can, of course, give you personal and detailed demonstrations. When you're going to plan to integrate DocYard into your production or integrate your production with DocYard, LuraTech is now able to deliver also not only licenses, but also turnkey and fully integrated solutions. We have a professional service offering now that allows you to get this DocYard turnkey integrated with your existing infrastructure, or we are of course also glad to still deliver it as a licensed product for the do-it-yourself people between you or the partners and customers who are having their preferred system integration company already. Please fill in our questionnaire. I have to say thank you once again for joining our webinar, and hope to see you next time in one of our next webinars.
Yeah, thank you and goodbye.